Well, hello there, and welcome to another episode of the Full Quota podcast. My name is Mpho and Tim. I've got Tim Lace here with me. It's been an interesting week in South African cricket, and we're going to talk all about that. You know, another finals heartbreak, but we've got SA20 going in full force, and we found out that SA20 is going to be on Boxing Day, starting on Boxing Day this year. So that's going to be quite interesting, and we're going to be talking about that. But outside of that, my name is Mpho and I've got Tim Lace here with me. Tim, how are you doing?
All good. Can't complain. Everything's good. Sun is shining. All good.
Everything is good, especially because I have my World Test Championship tickets. There'll be some days where I probably will be sitting behind a scoreboard, but I just wanted to be there, Tim. So just have half of us there, and then we'll probably do the podcast from there, and just to give people a sense of where we are and how the game's going, because that's going to be quite an interesting week, and we might even do a daily podcast just to cover that and give people a sense of how we're feeling, because this is a different final. This is not a one-day thing. It's a whole day. But anyway, you can follow us at the Full Quota Pod on X. Subscribe to the Full Quota Podcast channel. Also, please do subscribe to the Apple Podcast and Spotify at Full Quota Podcast for the audio listeners in the audio community. And also, you can buy some coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Full Quota Podcast. It helps us to do this. We love to do this, but it helps us get myself to Lords, helps Tim with all his research and all the work that we do, and to be able to for us to come through and get the guests that we can and that we do and that we have over the past 4 years that we've been doing this. And so if you can support us, that'd be really, really awesome. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please do subscribe and press that like button. It doesn't hurt. It takes a couple of seconds. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't take away from anything in your life. But yeah, thank you very much for all the support thus far. Okay, let's start with the elephant in the room. It wasn't Victory Monday. We're actually recording this on Tuesday. It's not Victory Tuesday. We don't have world champions coming home. We have another group of finals losers. Another final lost in South Africa. It's 4-4. I had a thought on Sunday morning before the toss happened. I was like, look, I'm still batting first, Tim. Largely because it's my first time here. And after what I saw with that Australia semi-final, you kind of felt that if we were put under pressure in a chase, we would crumble. Unfortunately, they crumbled setting. And it's a fact that I've always said, right? If you're in a final the first time against a team who've been there before, chances are you're not going to win that one, because the day is different. It's longer. It's even for the coaching staff, right? You're learning as you're going along. You're making mistakes, but you know that you're just trying to get the girls ready and trying to get them going. And I'm not saying Coach Tanisha wasn't prepared. I know that she was. But it's still a different day. It's still a longer day. There's still extra things that you have to think about. On top of that, there's the pressure that sits on you. She kept on saying she wanted the players to be in the present. The present was a World Cup final. And the question is, how do I bat in a World Cup final? And you can say bat normally, but it's still the final. And I kind of felt that the girls, the under-19 girls, just found themselves in that little Bermuda Triangle of, I don't know what to do. It is a World Cup final. There's so much pressure on me. I need to be aggressive. We've lost wickets. And we found ourselves not being able to do anything. Those 4 overs between 7 and 10 where we scored only 4 runs, those were a killer. And it's from our 2 senior players. And that just killed the game. And there was no coming back from there. I thought maybe if our seamers could get early wickets, that would happen. But it's this India side who are very good and very strong. And if you give them 83, they took it all because they've been there before. They bowled England out for 63 here in Poch 2 years ago. So you have a team in India who've been here, who've done it, who have been this dominant. And you have a team like South Africa who have to beat the champion to be a champion in the final. And they have the team. They just didn't were not at their best. If you had to give them one bad game, this was that bad game, and unfortunately, it just happened in a final. Tim, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think you summed it up pretty well. Look, I was in a similar vein of thought. I was thinking, as they were batting, as they were sort of 20 for 3, I was thinking, I wonder, was this the right decision? Was this the right decision? Should we have batted first? Has it added pressure to us? Is this team better because of the fielding that we saw against Australia? Is it perhaps better just to do the fielding, restrict India, and then chase? But I think with all of those ifs and buts that are there, I think on the day, India were 10 out of 10 in every facet of play. They outplayed us in every single department. I don't think it would have made any difference at the end. We might have lost by less. I still think we would have lost because India was so good. They were exceptional. The way those bowlers made sure they gave absolutely no width to our top 6 was exceptional. It was all wicket to wicket, and it was of a quicker pace, so it was quite difficult for the girls to get down the pitch, get to the pitch, hit them over the top. It was very, very challenging bowling. It was easily the best bowling performance I saw of the World Cup. So yeah, obviously disappointed, but I just think this is why we've got to take it on the chin and say, beaten by the better team. I don't think we did anything necessarily wrong. Outside of what you said, where perhaps what you needed to be, but again, as I said, you needed somebody to have calmer heads when you're 20 for 3. At the same time, the partnership between Renako and Meso of 20 or 45 was problematic. It was really, really problematic. And that made our chance of getting to 100, which was a minimum, very, very challenging. So I just think on the day we were beaten by the better team.
Yes, you could say so, and I think India bowled extremely well. But the thing for me in a final, it's all about how you transfer pressure across to the other side, and the person who is able to can easily transfer pressure to the opponent is the one who plays freely, not freely, but not tight. You can't be tight, and that all our batters were very tight. Gemma was the only one who wasn't tight, and she was playing freely, and you kind of felt like this spot was for her, and she made team of the tournament, and rightfully so. But everyone else after that, Diarra looked like a deer in headlights. Karabo and Kayla just did not know what to do. They were just trying to push. Simone as well at the top of the order, but she didn't have a great tournament. It was just a bit of a struggle for her. I think she would have preferred more pace on those pitches, but you didn't get much from that, and we went away from what we were. And it is in these moments where people learn to play freely in a final, like it's just any other game, like it's a game against Nigeria where you're just going through the motions, but you're doing it excellently and meeting all your things, and we just couldn't. And we were tight, and I can't teach that. Nobody can teach that. You can tell someone to play freely, but the occasion tells you everything, right? And that's the thing. And I mean, maybe it's the thing South African cricketers have, right? Is that the occasion is what gets them more than anything else, which is wild. And the other thing with rugby, the difference between rugby and cricket is that in rugby you have to tackle. You can't be afraid. You can't go into that game with fear. If you do, you're going to get injured, right? So you kind of have to assert the dominance, because if you don't, there's a high risk of injury. Whereas with cricket, you can hide. You can be there, standing there, petrified, not knowing what to do, but wanting to get through. And we've seen it in countless World Cup finals. My only hope, Tim, is that come June, we end this cycle. The cycle ends in June, and we can we can win a tournament out of 5 finals. And that's the one we want, right, Tim? That's the one we really want, right?
Absolutely, no, that is the one we want, without a doubt. Yeah, hopefully we can put that one to bed against the very aging Australian side.
Yeah. And we can kill all these curses. There's no curse on South African cricket. It's just when the lights get bright, our South African cricketers shrink. That's all it is. They get tight. And it's all the years and all the history of all of this. You need to learn to get there, learn to play freely, learn to, just breathe. And everything that Coach Denisha said in a podcast is what you need to be doing. The only problem is it's a big spot. It's a massive spot. And I felt for the girls, really, really. But I'm really proud of them. They made it to the final. You got to give yourself a chance, and they did at winning it. And you have to be in the final to win a World Cup. Second place is not a bad thing. It kind of tells us that South African cricket's in a good spot. And it kind of also gives us, this World Cup gives us an indication of, yes, Tim?
No, I was just going to say, we are consistently making those final spots. That's telling you something to me. That's not telling me that this team is a choking team or choking nation. That tells me that we are making the right steps in the right direction. Slowly, but we are still making the right steps in the right direction.
Yeah, no, that's true. And we'll get there. And I think it's the World Test Championship in June. And I just need fast bowlers who are fit. Right now, Luto Supamna is looking like a very good prospect of making it to the World Test Championship final, because he's the only one who seems to be not falling down like flies. Okay, let's move on to SA20. SA20 concluded this past week with the final four being set. The Pretoria Capitals over the back end of last week had a chance of qualifying. They needed to beat MI Cape Town and Pretoria, but MI Cape Town came through and scored bucket loads of runs. They scored 200 runs at Centurion. I kind of feel like Tim Reza just loves scoring runs at Centurion. I'm surprised he's not going to... I think if he ever was to leave the Wanderers, I think the Titans should make an offer, because the man can score runs at home. And currently they need someone to score runs at home across all the formats. Just putting it out there for the Titans. If you're looking for a top order batter, a Protea who might not be playing for the Proteas anytime more, but will have more time playing domestic cricket, Reza would be a great signing. Pay him all the money in the world. He will score runs for you in Pretoria. We saw a bit of Deva Breva scoring a half century there as well. Rassie van der Dussen. This SA20 team has been for the guys who actually should be leaving or on the outs of the Proteas T20 setup, but they're the ones scoring runs, whereas the guys in the setup are not scoring runs, bar Markram. Markram's been scoring runs. Stubbs hasn't been there for a while. Marco Jansen's been putting down the runs, but at 7. But even with Heino Klaasen, we only got that 76 against JSK last week on Thursday. But yeah, what do you make of that that situation?
Yeah, look, so we sort of built it up as a sort of an interesting run into the playoffs. It actually was a bit of a whimper. The teams that were at the top kept winning by and large. So it was a sort of a collection of dead rubbers, shall we say, which was a shame for the tournament. But it did show that how strong those teams like Paarl and My Cape Town are. They are exceptional. So yeah, it's pretty much done. That one thing that was interesting, and it's not from me, it's from the Cricket Info, was what I said some weeks ago, and I got some criticism for, whereas there are less runs this year, less big scores, the bowling economies are better, so it's been more of a bowling T20 competition than a batting competition. We haven't seen massive blowouts in this tournament. Teams like scores of like 200 we saw from My Cape Town have not been a common occurrence as they were in previous seasons. And I think that's just naturally because of the tired pitches. I think the pitches are becoming very, very tired, and they've been used a lot this season. So from a spectacle point of view, that's unfortunate, but the right teams are in the playoffs. That's the important thing. There's no, the teams that have been poor are out, and it's basically a shootout at the top four.
Let's talk about those two teams that have been poor: DSG and Durban Super Giants and Pretoria Capitals. What were their points of downfall? Because Durban Super Giants just looked confused from day one. They had the players, but somehow they got them at a point where A, they were not on form, but B, they just weren't a good bowling side. They had a great batting side, but they confused themselves by playing Quinton at 4, sometimes Hannah Clarkson coming at 7, Brandon King not opening in some games. They just looked quite confused for a team that kind of knew who they were. Even the whole thing last season of playing Vian Mild at 4, that kind of worked for them, right? But I think Kane coming in just made things more confusing, which I thought would have made it a lot easier, right? But where do you think they went wrong, Tim?
I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I think it has been the bowling. So somebody who I said was going to do really well, and I think did reasonably well last season, was Navneen Al-Haq. Now, I don't know why it wasn't a good season for him, because I think the slower pitches would normally suit him. I think the lack of pace would suit him with his variety in paces and his slow balls. But he's had a terrible tournament. And I think they've relied, in terms of the bowling, an awful lot on him and his experience in international cricket, and he just hasn't had a good tournament. And I don't just mean him. I think their pace bowling has been a huge problem. Not just their bowling. I think their pace bowling has been a huge problem for them. They haven't had any consistency. So when people like Klaasen, who's ended up okay by the end because his back end was all right, and Williamson scored runs, it meant very little because their bowlers didn't support them. Victoria, I just repeat myself. I don't understand how a team with that amount of stars, with that amount of quality, with that amount of talent can't be making the playoffs. It is the nature of T20 cricket, but I can't really put my finger on it. I can't really say, well...
I think I can. I think their issue was that they kept on looking for a pacer. Anouk Nokia goes down. He's not available. Miguel Pretorius is not at that level, and we can see why he's not knocking on the Pro Tour's door. He did make it to the West Indies, but somehow he's been usurped by Corbin Bosch and everything else. You kind of saw that, right? And then when in this tournament, it was like they had one good game and nothing much. Ethan Bosch as well. They'll say the rained out games are the reason why they're not in, and they did try. But I think for me, that's what let them down, right? To concede 200 twice, actually 3 times. They're the only team that conceded 200 in the tournament, and that just speaks to the bowling. They don't have a quality spinner. Adil Rashid leaves a massive gap for that side, because Adil Rashid's overs are like, he gets like 2 for 20, and that's it.
Yeah, gold dust. Yeah.
And they lost. Didn't have him. And then on top of that, they don't have Anouk Nokia. So you're now scraping at the bottom of the barrel for bowlers. Well, I'm not saying at the bottom. And then Wayne Parnell somehow left in the middle of the season. I think it was due to some disciplinary issues, and I think because they took the captaincy away from him. But yeah, it just didn't seem that great. And you could see the talent with the batting. Like if they had to go into the auction, I think next year's auction is going to be like everyone's going to be looking for a fast bowler who's not being used. And might say use the trades, right? Oguhle Cele is at the Sunrise, the Eastern Cape. They didn't even use him once. Take him, put him in, right? Luto Supamla. Ask JSK if they're going to continue with Luto because they've got Nandre and Gerald, right? Luto is a great trade candidate for someone to pick up, right? It's not about looking at England, and that's what frustrated me about this tournament, right? There's so many other fast bowlers in the country that you can bring in, and yet we're bringing in Matthew Potts, Jason Behrendorff, and Matthew Potts is at MI Cape Town, but like Jason Behrendorff and I'm sitting there going, this is not working. And so for me, that's where the both teams suffered with the bowling. One team just did not understand, couldn't find their best top six. That's DSG. And Pretoria Capitals, with all the firepower they had, Will Jacks played until the end of the tournament. And like he gave us like probably one score of significance and one little half century of significance. I liked Ramanula Gurbaz. I think he's awesome. Riley was so fine at 3. You can keep him there. And then from then on, you need to figure it out. Keegan Leon Cachet did really, really well. Well done, Keegs. I think he should be given an opportunity, even over and above Steve Stoke, which is surprising. And so that's the thing about Pretoria Capitals, that they've actually got a good core of batters. They just need a quality spinner, and they need a one frontline fast bowler to help Ethan Bosch and Miguel. So you can do Miguel, Ethan Bosch, and your frontline seamer, and then you can have a spinner in there, and there you are. And then you can find someone else, Jimmy Neesham, for God's sakes, he can bowl a few overs, but you can't give me all rounders 24/7, and that's what they ended up giving us. And we were like, okay, so then what's the plan? But yeah, they got eliminated, and then now we've got the final 4. Tim, you've got JSK in 4th, Sunrisers in 3rd, and you've also got MI Cape Town, who got record points of 35 points in the SA20. And Paul. And today is the playoffs, the first game. I've got the playoff fixtures here. So the first playoff today is in Gqeberha, MI Cape Town taking on the Paarl Royals, 1 versus 2. The loser gets another crack in qualifier 2 in Centurion to play the winner of the Sunrisers Joburg Super Kings eliminator in Centurion. That pitch is going to be so dead by the time we're done with it. And then the qualifier 2 is on the 6th, which is Thursday, and then the final is at the Wanderers on Saturday. Let's talk about the 4 teams. Right? Let's talk about the 2 teams in the first qualifier, MI Cape Town and Paarl Royals. MI Cape Town in the last week did not let up. Even with their reserves, Dane Pete coming in, Thomas Kaber coming in, Connor Esterhazen coming in, they were very, very strong and good, and scored 200 runs against Pretoria Capitals in that final. What do you make of MI Cape Town, Tim?
Their top 7 batsmen all averaged over 40, and the lowest strike rate, and the lowest strike rate was 130. That tells you everything for me. Yes, Rashid Khan. Yes, Kagiso Rabada. Yes, Trent Boult. They all had fantastic tournaments. But for me, it's the top 7 where whenever they were on the odd occasion in trouble, the next guy came in and scored runs. The next guy came and scored runs. If you're averaging over 40 and you're striking it at over 130 in T20 cricket, that's IPL numbers. Those are numbers that IPL owners are going to go, I'm taking note of you. I'm picking you at the squad. Everything is clicked for my Cape Town. I thought that this week there was a chance that maybe they might have slipped, because if you remember last season, they should have been better last season, and they fell away very badly at the end. I thought maybe there might have been some nerves around that. Not that they were going to miss out on such, but I thought maybe they might have fallen away anyway. But they were exceptional. They were absolutely exceptional. exceptional.
Yes, and to some extent, this is a similar batting lineup to what they've had over the past couple of years. The only person they've added was Reza, and he's been a great addition at the top of the order. And it's funny enough, it's the South Africans that the fans don't want at the top of the outside of Ryan Rickleton, right? So it's Ricks, it's Reza, and Rassie, who South African fans will laugh at you if you're like, no, we don't want Reza and Rassie in the side. But they've made a great case for them to rob. In terms of the T20 side, striking at higher strike rates. Rassie's been very impressive. Ryan himself, who is on the outskirts of the starting 11, has done an incredible job to say that, no, I should be playing all three formats for South Africa. And he's said that with aplomb. And I'm really, really happy that he's done that. And I like the fact that it seems like because for me, with a tournament like this, is short, it's 10 games, right? You need to be humming at the right time. And it seems like this team was the most consistent team, and what kept them in games was their bowling attack. Their bowling attack just kept them in games. They were on fire all tournament long, and they just kept them in games, and the batting caught up towards the middle when they started putting down the double centuries and all of that. And you can see to the point where even the subs on the bench are the ones who are scoring runs. Connor Estes in 76 on Saturday was just incredible. I was like, okay, here we are, right? And that's the type of team they are. The question is, can they do it for one more week? There's no reason why they can't. They effectively have 2 games. Even if they lose today, it's a third game. But I do think that only a loss can stall this momentum. I don't see this team losing twice. I do see this team winning once and maybe in the final in a pitch that should suit batting a little bit pacier on the Highveld. You should be able to put any team away at the Highveld. I expect if they make the final, if they bat first, they're going to put down 220.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think they've been in such good form throughout the tournament. Often you wonder, you think, well, they've been so good that there's time for them to fall off. I don't think this team's going to fall off. I think, as you say, I think they might lose in the playoff game, and I think they'll win the final. I think they are going to go all the way this year. No more of the empty Ferrari. No more empty Ferrari.
This one's actually going to win an F1 title. The Paul Royals, they had a very interesting week last week. Obviously, Joe Root leaves them on the Saturday night when they played JSK. They didn't win that game. But they obviously got Mitchell Owens, who scored 100 in the BBL for Hobart, right, in the final. And they've been trying to bed him in and trying to get that team going. Luandre Pretorius has been great. But the problem with Paul coming to this final week is injuries. David Miller was injured or unavailable. Hopefully he'll be back for this one. It looks like he will be. Lungingiti, they've been sweating on the fitness of him. And the other big thing for me is they're no longer playing at Paul. They were unbeaten at home in Paul, which is also an amazing feat and the first ever in SA20. But they're not playing their finals in Paul. They're not playing this playoff in Paul. They're playing in Gqeberha. Might be similar conditions, but it's not like they're playing in Paul. They're not going to be able to roll out 5 spinners in Gqeberha. And so you're going to have to ask a question. Kwena and Lungi are going to have to shoulder a lot of the burden. Kwena bowled incredibly well for no wickets on Saturday night at the Wanderers. And he's just really hoping to get back to the Wanderers to probably take more wickets then, because he was bowling really well and also really fast. But it's that middle order that I have an issue with. Once you get past Luandre and Ruben Hadman, who's been exceptional this year, and another one who should be playing for the Proteas, those two should be in the Proteas selection as we look to the T20 World Cup. After that, middle order hasn't been great. David Miller hasn't come to the party bar once in this tournament, but that's how you beat them, right? You make early inroads and then you find them in trouble. And I think people have also kind of found out Luandre a little bit. So it's going to be interesting to see how Paul find a way through that opening pair, that opening spell for Trent Bolt and Kagiso Rabada at MI Cape Town in Gqeberha today.
Yeah, I think it's going to be the Joe Root effect. I think that's the reason they're going to end up short this season. They've had a fantastic season. They've turned it around brilliantly. they've harnessed a great team ethic, and everybody seems to be enjoying themselves in Paarl. But I just think that Joe Root's impact with bat and ball, his numbers in both departments are exceptional. It's exceptional stuff. I think they're going to end up short. It's going to need, as you said, it's going to need somebody who's not been doing the numbers to come out. I don't think a 60 or 70 for the one day is going to be enough. They're going to need more. They're going to need more from Buren. Mitch has not had a good tournament, but if he plays, he's going to have to show his genuine class. Otherwise, I think they're going to end up just short because of, as you say, not playing at home and Joe Root. I think Joe Root's absence is massive.
Yeah, Joe Root's absence will be massive, and I think that for me is the key thing. He's been the catalyst, right, to this change. However, they've got a really, really amazing spin attack. They just need to be in the game in order for them. You can't let MI Cape Town run away with it, or anybody this week run away with an opening partnership, because then your spinners get nullified, right? And that for me is the key thing. And it's going to come down to Lungi and Kwena. Lungi's not there yet. You can see it with his bowling. He's just not there yet. He's close, but he's just not there. Can he find it this week? I think he can. Kwena is there. He's just not taking wickets because he needs a partner. He needs someone on the other end who's not releasing the pressure. And for me, that's the key thing with Paarl. But yeah, they've got 2 cracks at it, both teams, and I think they've earned the right for 2 cracks. I don't think they won't make the final. My finals prediction is those 2. But there's the 2 villains who are playing tomorrow, Sunrisers and JSK. Starting with the Sunrisers, they found their way. They found their mojo with the bat. They found it somehow. And it's still topsy-turvy. It's in and out. They're very inconsistent. They're Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and you can see it with the way they're batting. The top order is not firing at any form. Yes, Aiden Markram is scoring some runs, but it's not dominant enough to put them with a foundation for that lower middle order. Tristan Stubbs is not batting well. They've moved him around the order. Marco Janssen's the only one scoring runs, but it's always at the back end. I call them garbage time runs, right? It's the game's gone, the innings is gone, and Marco is just tonking away, which is good to see. For a Proteas supporter. But yeah, you all know my issues with Marco. In a big spot, Marco does not arrive. From a bowling perspective, that's been their issue as well. I think Othniel Bartman hasn't been able to get fully in a stride. He's coming back slowly, but that's the issue. And it's one of the reasons why they're not there. They were always a great bowling side, right? Roelof van der Merwe is not playing. Simon Harmer is playing. And obviously Liam Dawson was a great find. But it's just they just haven't had they aren't able to consistently put a run of games together, which is why the playoffs works, right? Win 2 games, you're in a final. That's all you need to do, and I think they can do that. The only problem is I don't see them winning a 3rd game if they make it to the final, even though they are looking to three-peat.
Yeah, I tend to agree. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting because I think you touched on all the correct points there. They have not been scoring enough runs to call themselves champions. They do have the talent, but people like Jordan Hammond, Tom Abel, who's highly thought of in England, Berriam, they have not been transferring those runs that we've seen in them score elsewhere. They have not been doing the business. If they're going to go all the way, it's going to be Liam Dawson, Othniel Bartman, and Markram with his runs and his general leadership, which I think has been, when the things were down and things were tough, I think his leadership was very, very impressive in this tournament, as it has been in previous times. I think those 3 individuals, if they can do the business in their facets, they've got a chance, but I think that's asking a little bit too much. But those 3 individuals are going to be huge if they're going to go all the way and get, as you say, 3 in a row.
Yes, and then obviously the final team, not least, but they did come in fourth. The JSK, the Joburg Super Kings, they're just a hive of issues. A hive. Similar to Pretoria Capitals, losing a lot of their bowlers, the fast bowlers. Nandre went down, Joe Kutse went down, Lazard Williams went down. That's three of your frontline strikers gone. Then Lutus Apamla came in. He did quite well. They also brought in Dane Patterson at the end to kind of supplement it, but I don't think Dane's going to play that much this week. But he's just there as injury cover, and they don't have much. On top of that, they're a dad's army, right? The only thing that's been helping them out is that they're getting wickets out of Donovan Ferreira, who says finally he's being given the opportunity to bowl, and this is not a surprise. We feel like, okay, happiness, and Donovan Ferreira is bowling like a JP Domini right now, which is great. They're batting up and down. Haven't seen the best of Johnny Bairstow. Devon Conway comes in and out, no big innings to hold on to. Faf is kind of the core of this side, but he also hasn't reached his high form moments. And then you have a situation where this team can cause problems, but they walk into these semifinals limping, right? Team culture still there, but batting is a lot of question marks, and their bowling is also a lot of question marks because they don't have the bowlers. Matisha Patirana should be doing well, but he's been quite wayward of late. Mahesh Tikshana should be helping from a spinning perspective, but he also hasn't just gotten into the tournament. So, yeah, they're just hoping that it's going to click this week. They are going to try and play villain and spoil people's party. And if they do, they could find themselves at the Wanderers on Saturday.
Yes. So I'm just looking at the squad and how you're doing. I think you hit it at the top there. Injuries have had a massive effect on this team. I think if you had Gerald and Nandre, things could have been very, very different for you. I think you could easily have been in the top two. Those guys are difference makers. They really are exceptional cricketers, and that's been a huge loss for you. Yes, Hardis has been good. It's been great to see Hardis back in and doing well. Doing the business, keeping you in games, keeping you competitive. But I think that too many guys have been missing out, as you say. I'm waiting. I'm glad for Donovan. Donovan's actually producing both now, bat and ball. More with the ball this season, strangely enough. But he's also doing something with the bat. I'm still waiting for Lewis. I'm still waiting for Lewis to light a fire. His numbers are not great. I'm expecting a lot more from him.
The only fire he's going to be lighting is the one on the back end of someone's cigarette. There's nothing there. It kind of feels like he had one great season, and I'm like, I know there's a cricketer in here, but where is it? And to a certain extent, that was my worry. It was like, is it a season too many? Because he was never seen as a T20 batter, so that's the thing. And it also speaks to the pitches slowing down, right? When the pitches start slowing down, it's the true T20 batters who will come through, the bashers, the power hitters, the guys who can find boundaries even when the pitches are slow and low. And it's like we're playing the world. It's like that World Cup at the West Indies again, right? It's slow and low, and it's not helping. It's not helping our guys. It's not traditional South African wickets, and it's not an excuse, but it is what it is. But yeah, that's the four teams in the final. It's in the playoffs week this week at the SA20 again. Qualifier 1 today, MI Cape Town against Paul Royals, and then you got the eliminator tomorrow. Sunrise Eastern Cape and Joburg Super Kings in Centurion. Qualifier 2 is the loser of Qualifier 1 and the winner of the eliminator at Centurion, and then the final, the winner of Qualifier 1 and the winner of Qualifier 2 making it in. Quick word on SA20 starting on Boxing Day. How do you feel? I'm hurt. I'm really, really hurt. I'm like South Africa. We could have played Zimbabwe, guys. We could have been like Zim, come through. Let's play a couple of test matches. You know, keep the guys going. You don't even have to play the Proteas stalwarts. You can give guys a Christmas. But there's a whole lot of youngsters who want to play cricket, who want to don the green and gold. You could have Ryan Rickleton playing there with some of the guys domestically who should be going. I think CSA should have tried to get at least those 2 weeks up until the 6th of Jan as a window and see if we can't get anybody in. Even you don't have to get a big team. Zimbabwe's just up the road. And
yeah, look, you know, I'm a traditionalist, and I think there should always be boxing and New Year's test. I think that should always be the case. I'm also a realist. I know things are changing. There's a really talk that Bloemfontein are going to get a team sometime in the future. I know for the first 6 years it is as it is now, but I can see that happening. And if that does happen, the schedule becomes even more congested. I think it's going to be the way of the world. Unfortunately, I really do. It's a sad realization. I know that after this year they're going back to what it was this year, which is good. But yes, I in a wider point, I would have much preferred, even if it was a South Africa A against West Indies A, I would have much preferred that than a 4-day game of that than SA20 starting as early as it is. But it is what it is.
It's going to be a massive revenue generator for SA20 to be able to have games during the back end of December and New Year's Eve. It's going to be quite an interesting one for us to see, and I think they'll get a lot more revenue. But the stadium's already full. So my question is, what's going to happen now? Because it's not like you're adding more games, right? Unless if Graham then tells us we're going to 8 teams for this year. And then you can get it. But then you have an expanded SA20 in 2027 with England coming, which is not going to be great. Anyway, let's move to... Yes, yeah. Tim?
No, I was just going to say, for the first 6 years, it's 6 teams.
Yeah.
It's 6 teams.
Oh, so, yes. Most definitely.
And then, yeah.
Yes. Tim, I forgot your team of the week. But
that's
anyway,
all right. That's all right. I've got it here, I think.
Okay, cool. That's fine. I'm just Okay, we'll call them out and we'll talk about them. Okay. The last thing we want to talk about before we go is the 4-day series. There were 3 matches in Division 2 of the 4-day series. Next week it's the 1-day cup starting, so everyone's preparing for that. That's going to put the 4-day series in Division 2 on hiatus. We've only got 1 game left, but Division 1 will start again in March to close out the end of the season. That's going to be quite interesting for relegation as well as promotion. But let's talk about the 3 games that happened this week. The Inyati went to Limpopo to play not the Rhinos, the Impalas. They scored 331 batting first. Limpopo could only manage 153. The Inyati then got to 182 and they managed to bowl Limpopo out for 211 to win by 141 runs. Lihle Sizani scoring 74 for 154. That was maiden first class 50. There's a video on YouTube about him getting to his maiden 50 and him like punching the ball to the onside and getting through there. Shane Dadswell, who's now appeared at the Inyati, scoring 51 of 73. Ncedisi Malika, he's had a great season for the Inyati, 92 of 143. Jay de Klerk scoring 60 of 117, taking 8 wickets in the match. Jerome Bossa, 60 off 87. Jan Kutzer, 56. Also making his maiden class 50. Disappointing loss for Limpopo, but encouraging win for the Inyati there, Tim.
Yeah, look, they were the better team. They were very impressive. It was clear that they wanted to sign off, not the 4-day series, but before the break, as you say, to the 1-day cup on a positive note, because it's not been a great season for them. But they were exceptional over the 4 days. They were, for most of it, the better team, and they fully deserved the win. There's No doubt about that. No doubt about that at all.
Yeah, no doubt about that as well. The Northern Cape Heat went to Oudtshoorn to play the Garden Route Badgers, the Six Quill Garden Route Badgers. They won that game, massive game in relation to the log. This is the final game, and this helped them get to the top of the log by winning by 4 wickets, 370, 175, and placed 341 and 201 all out. Yasin Vali scoring 75 for the Badgers. George van Heerden scoring 70 as well. Luke Beaufort 66. Ernest Kem scoring 90 for the Heat and taking 4 for 63. Mudiri Diteko 52 for the Heat of 113. And Tian Kukumu scoring 73 off 204 balls. This was an interesting game and had a lot of implications, Tim, for the top of the log, but Northern Cape Heat coming through.
Yeah, it was massive. It could have gone either way. It was a really tightly adjusted game. Fantastic innings from Beaufort and Van Heerden again. Great to see them in form. Ernest Kem has been so consistent this season in both facets. Yasin Vali as well has been really consistent for the Badgers. The turning point here was that the Badgers were holding on in their second innings. If you look at their balls faced, they were holding on. They batted for a long time, and they set Northern Cape 176 to win. And I can't remember how many overs were left of the day, unfortunately, but they scored the 175 for 6 in 29 overs. That's 6 and over. So they went blitzvullig. They went right for the ball one, and they just smacked it from ball
And I'll
one.
explain to you why. It was because remember there's 7 teams in Division 2, so one team's not going to play in that final round, and it's them. And so they needed to do everything they can to win the game in order for them to give themselves a gap between number 2, which is the ACDC Express Tuskers, right? Currently, that gap is about 20 point something, 21 points. That means the ACDC Tuskers need to collect all the batting points, which means they need to score 480 overs. On top of that, they need to get all of the boiling points, and then win the game. You get 16 points to win the game, and then you get, as many batting points as you can, and then obviously bowling points you get 4, which means you got to bowl out the team in the first innings under 80 overs, right? So, or get to 9 wickets. So, effectively, the Northern Cape Heat is saying we want to be champions, and that's why they needed to do that. It was expert, it was smart, it was great, and they managed to then get the win after that, because obviously you still have to bowl the other team out. Test cricket, which is why we love it, is you need to get 20 wickets. Everywhere else you don't need to get 20 wickets to win, or even 10 wickets to win. Here you need to get 20 wickets, and they've done that, and they did that really well. So well done to the Heat, and hopefully this will be their kickstart to their promotion. They just need to get through the One Day Cup, which they haven't played well in over the last couple of years. Okay, ACDC Express Tuskers, that's KZN England, drawing with Mpumalanga. This draw is so important. Mpumalanga did, 243, plays 472 for 6, plays 146 for 1, and it was a draw. James Ritchie scoring 59 on his maiden first-class debut. Muri Snyman, 113. Yasar Cook, 123. Mohammed Mayat, 88. Karabo Mohodzi scoring 72. And Ben Compton scoring 57, not out. What a showing by Mpumalanga. They've been at the bottom of Division 2 for years. But last year you saw a glimpse of them playing better. And now this draw is just as good as a win, Tim.
Yeah, I think they watched me last week. When I said, we're previewing the games, I said, this is the one you don't need to worry about. Tuskers will get the W. It's all on Northern Cape Heat and their game against SWD. That's where the pressure's going to be. I tell you what, I was wrong. I was horribly wrong. Mpumalanga were exceptional in this game. They fully deserved the draw. Tuskers, for large parts, were not at their best. But Mpumalanga were exceptional. Fantastic 100 from Yuri Snyman. I saw him on about 30 overnight, and I said, this is a different Yuri, because Yuri likes to hit the ball. He likes to take the opposition. I saw a maturity there. I saw a determination to make sure that the Tuskers were going to have to, if they were going to get the win, they were going to have to work damn hard for it. And that leadership, because he's the captain, transferred to the rest of the team and let down the order. So Hydrosom Cook, 80s, 70s. It was a really outstanding team effort from Mpumalanga. They will be at the bottom, but they are showing genuine fight in this 4-day series, genuine commitment, and it's really good to see.
And this is the game. If the Tuskers don't get promoted, this is the game. This is the draw. Yeah. They gave the Heat the gap. So let's look at the log. The next fixtures are in March, and it's the final 5. And as I said, if you look at the log here, the Tuskers, the Heat have already played all their games. They're going to finish on 103 points. The Tuskers need to get 21 or more points, which is possible. You need to get, all 4 bowling points, and then you need to get 3 batting points over and above a win in order for you to get there, right? That's why this draw is so important, right? Because if they won, the gap would have been so close and the Tuskers would have actually been able to get to number 1 spot with a draw, but now they can't. They sit in second on 82.8 points. The Inyati, 73 points in third. That's massive turnaround from how their season started. They lost 8 in a row before they started this season. This is 4-day series season. And now they've won 2 this season, which is really awesome. Well done to the team at the Inyatis. The Garden Route Badgers are in 4th with 69.6 points. It's very tight there. The Rhinos as well are in contention. The Rhinos could actually finish in 3rd, actually even in 2nd, should things go their way. And then you've got the Impalas with 56.66, who also can finish. They can't finish 2nd, but they can finish 3rd with a win. And then the Storm. The Storm haven't won a game in 5. They'll be hoping to get a win on that final one. So that's how it sits and that's how it stands. And it's got a lot of promotion relegation implications because obviously you get 15 points for being number 1. And so that's going to be crucial. Outside of that, there aren't any other games this week outside of the SA20 playoffs. Next week we'll be previewing most likely the one-day cup. If not, there'll be interviews in and around. You asked for interviews, we will provide those. Remember, if you're watching us on YouTube, please do like and subscribe and follow. And then also on the audio, for the audio community, Full Quota Podcast on Apple Podcast and also on Spotify. Let's grow that community. Let's get that going. And remember, you please do buy us some coffee at buymecoffee.com/Full Quota Podcast. Tim, any last words before we go?
No, I was just going to touch on what you said. Next week will probably be our one-day cup preview as well as summation of the SA20. We'll probably do it together. Otherwise, watch out in the future, the next couple of weeks. So just keep an eye out on that. As Mpho said, you asked for interviews. We are getting you interviews in the near future.
Yes. Who's winning the SA20?
My Cape Town.
Oh, okay. I think that's going to be the case. I can't disagree with you, but I'll say Paul Royals, Luandre Pretorius 100 at the Wanderers to cap off an incredible season for the youngster. But outside of that, from ourselves and Tim, it's goodbye and lesale kakachis.